Hi everybody, how are you? I'm good, how are you? I hope you're doing okay. I'm excited. This is my new video. As promised, here I am. And this is going to be hopefully a short video. One of the it's one of the FAQ videos that I said I would do, the short and sweet ones where I would quickly address a question that kept coming up often in my blog comments. So today I'm going to talk about different systems of divination. Okay, because I get a lot of questions and a lot of people are curious about it, and I guess here we go. So there are all kinds of different systems of divination. But before we get into that, let's just look at the word divination for a second. I've got the definition here up on my screen, so I'm going to read it out for you. The word divination is derived from the Latin word divinare, which means to foresee or to be inspired by a god. Now, again, God is a word that has nowadays gotten all kinds of political, religious connotations, but for me, God refers to that the universal, ultimate creative energy. So you can, you know, if you don't believe in that, that's fine. But the point is to be inspired by some sort of divine energy, and in that energy you can see things from the future. That is what the word means, divination. So they've kind of put it in a definition style thing. I'm just going to read it out. The attempt to gain insight into a question or situation by way of an occultic standardized process or ritual. So by standardized process or ritual, I suppose they are meaning that each and every system has its own way of uh, sort of looking at things. So there's always some rule, like even with tarot, there's always some certain basic rules, and then there's a whole lot of flexibility. So in that way, there is some set standard. I guess that's how they've defined it. So there are all kinds of systems. I mean, tarot is not the only one, and tarot is probably not the first one that sort of evolved in the world. I do believe that the very first system would have been astrology, because primitive man, human beings, we all looked up to the stars, and we made up the constellations, and we made up myths and stories to go along with those constellations, because as human beings we are all storytellers. Right at the outset, we looked up and we said, oh look, that bunch of stars up there in the sky, that sort of looks like this picture and this guy, and so who's this guy, and this guy's some god, and these were his adventures, and that could have very well happened either way. So I think when they looked up and they looked at the stars, they looked up at the planets, and they started studying the motion of the planets in the sky. So they came up with astronomy, obviously. And it took a long while for the world to believe that the earth was not the center of the universe. But science and everything advances hand in hand. So I believe, okay, that astrology could have been could have very well been the starting point, or astronomy, and then astrology. Then because now astrology is very. I'm just going to talk about each system for a little bit, because otherwise it's going to be a long video, and I don't know if you guys like long videos, long descriptive videos. Now in India, where I was born and brought up, every pretty much happens in most families where you have a kid, and we have this thing called a Patrika, something like this, where where you have a chart of you know uh, the planets. The whole concept of this, something like this, is even I have one. Naturally, the whole concept is because you need the date of birth, place of birth, and time of birth. With that data, what they ascertain is the latitude and the longitude, with the place of birth. And with the time of birth, they determine where the planets were in the sky, where you were born at that place, you know. So it's like at this point on the earth, at this date, at this time, where were the planets, where were the stars, where were the constellations, and they map it out on a piece of paper, and they divide the whole thing into 12 houses. Each house stands for something, and then subsequently, obviously, the planets move, and as they move, they determine the shape of things. But where they are when you are born, that position determines pretty much your personality, your general fate and destiny. I mean, that's how they calculate it. And it's very mathematical and precise. Of course, intuition comes into play when the interpretation part happens, but then there are very distinct rules that are set out for this. I find it a little complicated, to be honest, because I'm very used to the whole, laissez-faire energy of tarot, to be honest. And tarot is, of course, the other one. And there's cartomancy. With cartomancy, what happens is they've got playing cards, your regular playing cards, and they use that for divination. Okay. Another system is numerology. Of course, people know about this one as well. You have the numbers, because numbers are everywhere. You have your date of birth, right? That's the basic number they start with, your date of birth, month of birth, year of birth. They add it up, they reduce it to a single number, and then you have all sorts of things going on. And then you have numbers that have been assigned to alphabets, and then they total it up and they come up with a number for your name, your first name, your last name, your middle name, and everything. It's just crazy. It's fun, but it's all about the numbers, and math is a little, it's just addition. So thankfully I didn't freak out, but that is all about numerology. There's also another system called runes. It's very cute. It's a very interesting system. I've just very much like totally skimmed the surface. I just know about it. They have stones, and you could have all kinds of stones, wooden stones, or you could have like your semi-precious stones. Like it's up to you. And the tradition is that you make your own runes. The symbols are fixed, you could say, but you make your own runes. So you gather your stones, because then your own energy gets imbibed into it. So you gather your stones, and then you carve the rune in that stone, and in that way, it's kind of like making your own tarot cards, where your energy is infused into it. And then you have these runes, and they're kept in a bag. And I think when someone comes to the reader for a reading, they just shake the bag and pull out a few runes, whatever comes, and they throw it on the table, and then they analyze it, upright, reversed, side by side. I think I may not be completely 100% on this, but I think that is how they do it. Then you have tea leaf readings. That is tasseomancy, I believe that's what it's called. And that's very nice because, when you drink tea, there's always some residue at the bottom of the cup, and people have analyzed this and decided that, okay, this means this means that, and based on that, people give readings. It's a great, I would say, experience. I've never had it, but I would love to at some point if I meet someone like, who really does good tea leaf readings. Because I like drinking tea, and, who doesn't want to know, the fate, fortune, and all of that. So it's great because then you get to sit down, a nice place, have a cup of tea, and then, the reader is looking at all the stuff and analyzing it. So I think that's gotta be fun, right? Another one I know is called I Ching. It's a Chinese system, and it's based on, I believe, I have this little book here, right? These are the 8 elements, I believe, in the Chinese system of things, and these are represented by these series of lines in different ways, and I did have an I Ching reading once, a long, long time ago. And what that involved was, it was at that time I thought it was pretty complicated. You There was, I think, 3 coins or 6 coins, and you had to, uh, yeah, 3 coins. Sorry, for each of those lines you have 3 coins, and you had to, throw them like dice, and depending on heads and tails, you could ascertain, what kind of line came up. And so you had to do that, and then based on that, there's readings here in this book, right? Depending on what lines came up, and so for instance, if you had lines like this, then you would have, a bunch of, the readings here. And there's a whole lot of interesting stuff: the judgment, the image, the lines, fortune, marriage, children, health, business, finance, so everything. So you know it's interesting. It's something worth spending some time learning. So I, at one point of time, long, long ago, I did end up buying this book. Of course, I didn't end up studying it. It's one of those books that lay in my library, but I will get to it one day. Hope is a good thing. So that's I Ching. And there's another one. This is something that I know, and I've been experimenting with some mixed success. It's called Pendulum Dowsing. And for that, hang on, you need something like this. It's a pendulum. Mine, I got one made out of moss agate. It's, look at it. Look at it. Isn't it pretty? And it's strung upon a chain like this, and you're supposed to just, like, hold it in your hand, and you're supposed to first train your pendulum, to say yes and no in a certain way. It swings in one direction or the other direction, and then you focus and you hold your hand steady. You hold the pendulum in your hand like this, and you focus, and you ask the question, and it either turns in one way or the other, signifying the answer. But this is just plain yes, no. I do know, of course, that there are people out there who have trained the pendulum to work along a circular axis, or a chart like that, where there's like a yes, no, maybe, and a bunch of numbers or some, like data across different, um, uh, I don't know, axis, radii. The point is that then the pendulum, they have trained it to move in only that direction. And it's not like you move it, it actually moves by itself. Trust me on this, I have experienced this. It's startling, but it happens, it works. And so uh, this is called pendulum dowsing. Now, of course, this is for me, I like a gate, so I got one. But there are all kinds. There's golden, brass, silver, crystals, and precious stones, semi-precious stones. It can be as fun and interesting as you want it. So that's this. um there is also one another type of divination which I have not touched upon till now, and I left it for the last because that is one of the most controversial ones, and that is the psychic abilities. Right now, intuition is something that, on some level, maybe psychology has helped sort of bring into the scientific realm, right? Because subconscious imagery and all that sort of thing. But psychic is something, people, you believe in it, you don't believe in it. There's a very thin line, and believe me, it's not like it does not exist. It does. There are people who have really awesome abilities there, where they catch, I believe, what I think happens is they catch the vibrations of the universe, and they're able to therefore see into the past, present, and future, because they're able to sort of vibrationally sense things on that level. Does that make sense? So we have clairvoyance, where people can see things into the future or past or whatever, and we've got clairaudience, where people can hear. Then we have, there's another one which, where people sort of talk to spirits. And I believe that process exists, because that's a very but then again, there's a whole lot of fraudsters, like any system out there. Okay, all of these systems are full of people who sadly are not on the up and up. But I guess you have fraudulent CPAs out there as well, right? So you can't really say that. There's no, it's a person to person thing, I think. So yeah, so like I said, it's like they talk to spirits, or they channel the spirits, and they can divine. Another system I know of is called automatic writing, where you I think you get into that trance like state, and you have to have a pen and paper in your hand, and then you just start writing stuff. um I haven't tried any of this, so really. Now the thing is, I keep getting asked a whole lot of questions about these systems and about these processes, but to be honest, I know a lot about the tarot stuff because I'm totally into it. I know a little bit about the astrology stuff because, hey, I'm Indian, I'm curious. We were born with this, I wasn't like born with it, but this kind of gets stuck onto you the moment you're born. You're like, what? So that's there. And then of course we have a little bit of numerology in the tarot cards, so I know a little bit about that. And all of this other stuff is just, what I've read, what I've discovered along the way. So I really honestly don't know much about these things. I haven't had much of a hands on experience with all of these things, but this is the overview. My suggestion is Google this. Okay, if you really want to know more about a particular topic, tarot, come to me. I will answer your questions all the time. Okay, if I don't know something, I will hunt it down for you, or I will just tell you I don't know. Let's look for it together. But if I know it, I will definitely tell you. But um, other systems, go to the experts, Google it, Wikipedia it, and there's a whole lot of information out there which you can totally study up on, read up on, and find out more. There's a lot of, you have to then obviously use your brain, yes, to sift out what makes sense and what does not make sense. You have to be a little rational and logical as well. But yeah, bottom line, all this information is out there, so you can totally find out. Okay, and I can see that this video has now become a very long video, so I'm gonna stop. And if there's anything else, any other questions that you have, feel free to email me like you've done before. Feel free to ping me on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, wherever, whatever platform works for you. Ping me on it, and I will add it to my list. I have got my bullet journal totally set up here, and I've got a whole lot of things and ideas for videos that I'm writing down in here, and I'm loving it. And I've got a whole bunch of stuff planned out for you guys, so it'll go into the list. Okay, so I will see you guys in the next video. Stay cool, stay tuned, and yes, click the like button. And just, if you like the video, click the like button. Subscribe to my channel. Get your friends to subscribe to my channel as well. And that way, so if there's new videos and everything, you'll get notifications. Aren't they cool? And you can follow me all over the internet on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and whatever social media platform works for you. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all these places. So, yep. See you next time.